Many years ago, long before the seminary, I was living and working in Washington, D.C. And one of my colleagues, a very colorful figure in his own right, was also a great storyteller. And he had worked for a number of years on Capitol Hill for an Oklahoma congressman. And he used to tell this story about a congressman going back to his district, to one of his towns, visiting, and he saw a gentleman with whom he was well acquainted, and out in front of his house was a sign for his opponent. So he went up to him, and he called him by name, and he said, "Many years ago, when you told me that this town needed a post office to put it on the map, didn't I do everything I could to get that post office here?" And the guy said, "Yep, you did." And then he said, "Years later, you called me and told me that your uncle needed housing, and we got him into veterans housing. Didn't I do that for you?" And he said, "Yes." And then he says, "And just a year or two ago, didn't I help get your son into West Point?" And he said, "Yes." And he said, "But now you're campaigning for my opponent?" And the man looked at him and responded, and I can't get the southern accent down. He says, "Yes, but what have you done for me lately?" Now, in today's reading, we hear the Passover instructions being given to the Jewish people, specifically how the meal is to be eaten. It is a ritual that endures to our today, endures till today. And it, among other things, ensures that the Jewish people never have to ask God, "What have you done for me lately?" They keep alive the memory of their deliverance from the increasingly harsh terms of their enslavement. Pope Emeritus, now Benedict XVI, in an interview, once pointed out that throughout the history of the Judeo-Christian history, he said peoples always turned to God during times of difficulty and trial. They prayed for deliverance and they prayed for strength. And he said that after making it through difficult moments, it was natural for people to offer prayers of thanksgiving to God. Sometimes for miraculous deliverance from a difficult situation, and sometimes, as he pointed out, for the strength to have endured these difficult moments. But he added that in the mid-20th century, a new phenomenon has been interjected into the human experience in which increasing numbers of people ask God to justify himself. In other words, the question is asked of him when any kind of natural or human calamity occurs: "Why did you let this happen?" The expectation, he points out, to people who hold this attitude is wanting the perfection which we await in the world to come to be ours now. And that's not the human experience. Now, for us as Christians, we also recognize the Passover's significance in our liturgical celebration. On Palm Sunday, our liturgy begins with a gospel reading in which Jesus instructs his disciples as to how they are to prepare for the Passover meal that they will celebrate. Of course, that Passover meal is now known to us as the Last Supper. It was at that Passover meal that he instituted the Eucharist, which we share now and every time we celebrate the holy sacrifice of the Mass. On that occasion, Jesus became the sacrificial lamb. We say before we receive communion, "Behold the Lamb of God." the lamb of the Paschal meal, the lamb of the Passover celebration, becomes now the lamb who saves us. Like the Passover celebration, our celebration of the Eucharist is our way of never forgetting what God has done for us. Not just lately, but now and forever.